Thanks so very much, our sister Salome, for your good song. That was powerful. God bless you. God do you good. This is Matalo TV, once again coming to you live from our studios, and I hope you're well wherever you are tuned in. I know we are okay. I mean, we are tuned from different locations. To some, it's morning, others it's afternoon, others maybe it's evening. And so I want just to take this opportunity to welcome all of us on board. And I want just to promise all of us that we won't fail you, won't frustrate you, but all be well. And so be reminded, it's only Matalo TV where we engage one another on matters live, and where we educate people on how to understand themselves best, and how even to carry and conduct their lives in the best way possible. And so this very particular moment, I just want to make a humble request to all of us that are tuned in. If you're following us through Facebook, please just share with your friends and allow them to know that we are already on air. Please, to those of us that are following us through YouTube, we also request humbly that you do the same, and request many to subscribe, because we want to spread this information far and wide. We need to heal this world that is that is becoming wicked by the day. Remember, we have an obligation, we have a duty to save this world and to make it a better place where all of us can live. And so to those of us that are following us through Instagram and Twitter, please, my friends, wherever you are tuned in, let us spread this information to as many as possible. And to those that are on TikTok, I know you've been following us, but it is not just enough to follow us. Spread this message. Let many know that we are on air, and please and encourage many to join, such that we may educate one another. Please, this is the moment that the Lord has created for all of us, and as we are about to share, I just want to remind all of us that it is not only important to listen, but you also need to have a good pen and a book and a good book from where you're going to write down this kind of an information that you're about to release your way. And so I know you are eagerly waiting for this topic that we are about to get into. Or the topic that we've been discussing of why the boy child is becoming weaker by the day. That is the topic where we are, and we are going to dwell on that until we get the right information to guide us on matters live. And so before I get started, allow me just to switch to the other side of the studio and bring to us a number. In the meantime, prepare yourself for the best.
Unatupenda.
Thanks so very much, Pastor Tabitha, for your good song. It's good serving the Lord. The Lord bless you and continue increasing you from every side. We are proud of you. Now, I just want to give us a review of what has been happening, because I know there are people who are joining us for the first time, and maybe you've been invited of a friend to join the topic of the day. Now, I'm one person who advocates for the rights of the boy child, and not only their rights but also the mentorship of the same. And so I started by saying that every male child should be brought to this kind of an understanding that they were created in 6 pillars, or God created a man and deposited in him some 6 strong pillars which need to be nurtured, which need to be mentored. And we started by saying that a man is a leader, he is a provider, he is a protector, he must be hardworking, a counselor, and a priest in his own capacity. And that is what builds up a man. So if nobody introduced your son or your husband to such, my sisters and my friends, wherever you are, we are in big trouble. You cannot guess about this life. The life has no shortcut. I've always said it again and again that there is no shortcut in life. Life is a process, and we must be trained to understand how to live this process and how to walk this process. And so that's why Matalo TV is coming to us right from our studios to bring to us the best of the information that you need to carry with you in this life. Because if you miss this kind of an information, you are out to face many handles or many obstacles, and you are about to fail in many areas. So let you be tuned and follow, such that you may be able to learn how best to conduct your life as a man, as a boy child. And I just also want to invite our sisters, mummies, and our sisters, wherever you are, let you join us. Let's learn this thing together. Let's be in this class of wisdom together, because you also need to understand how a boy child ought to be raised. There is no shortcut about raising the boy child. Neither is there any shortcut about raising a boy, the girl child. It all involves a lot of effort and a lot of hard work to bring up somebody who be reliable, somebody who can be trusted, and somebody that we can look upon. It's not easy. It's not a short journey. It's a long journey. Now, I've also mentioned in my review, let me just mention a little bit of what I've just taught in the past, that we discovered that we don't become real men because we are in trousers. Well, neither do we become real men because we have attained a certain age, or we don't just become real men because we have developed some beard, or to those who undergo some circumcision rites that maybe we have gone through such, or the last assumption, we don't just become real men because we have been able to marry and such children. Such cannot qualify any man to become a real man. Far from that. A real man is not composed of such. A real man must be given the right foundation, as I've just introduced to us. They must know the 6 pillars that are deposited in them by God. Now listen to this. From there, after we have discovered that a man cannot be defined in such that I've mentioned, we need now to understand that every man, wherever they are, every boy child, wherever they are, they must sit under mentors who mentor them to understand this process. And I've always said again and again that we have like 5 generations who have not been mentored into this, and that's why we have chaos all over. That's why we have trouble all over, because we have men who are guessing on what it means to be real men. They are trying to experiment with their lives, but it doesn't work that way, and it will never work. You cannot achieve anything by trying to guess how life ought to be conducted. Life must be lived the way it ought to be lived. It must be so real, and it must not be allowed to be interrupted in any other way. And so a mentor should be there to mentor a son. And it is also important to understand that a mentor not only mentors son, but he also mentors the daughters. That is very important and very key. Remember, I've always said again and again, it is the father who helped the daughter to strike balance between femininity and masculinity. They have the feminine and masculine in them. It is the father who helped the daughter to strike the balance. And the same thing, because even men contains within them feminine and masculine. It is the duty of the father to strike balance such that they may not go overboard. So I've mentioned that in my past lessons, and I don't want to dwell so much on that. I want also to take us to this level. I discussed with us, and I have continued to discuss with us, that when we come to the area of leadership, leadership has levels. And I've always said to us, if you believe that you can make it or you can manage it by your own, you are lying to yourself, and some days you'll frustrate yourself. You must be trained to understand that leadership has levels, and that is where we are. I'm taking us into these 6 levels of leadership, because if you miss one, you may miss all. But when you start to understand the 6 levels, now you are ready to handle whatever situation and whatever issues that come along the way. And what are these levels of leadership? Number 1, we train our sons to understand what we call individual leadership. This is where you are trained to understand on how to stand on your 2 feet without leaning on your left or on your right. You are trained to understand how best to handle yourself and how best to lead yourself before you lead other people. Today we have people who want to lead others, but they cannot lead themselves. They are so poor in conducting their own affairs. They are so poor in leading themselves. But they want to voice. They want their voice to be heard. They want to be heard everywhere, but they don't have the capacity to lead themselves. They don't have the capacity to exercise the true values and the true morals in themselves. They don't have the capacity to practice discipline. Listen to this. When we come to individual leadership, we equip you from every side to understand how best to lead your own life and to conduct your affairs in the right way possible, such that you may be able to walk the talk. Now, another thing I've mentioned in our lessons is that we must discover and we must understand that there is no leader that is without mistakes. And that one I've dealt with in length, and we have been able to discover that even the first man, Adam, never made it. Never made it right the way God desired that he walk right. Why? Because he was not God. He was a human being. He was created, and he has his own weaknesses and his own limitations. So God never created a perfect man, and you don't expect to see a perfect leader. Every leader in one way or the other will make mistakes. I make mistakes, and other leaders will also make mistakes. And we have taken time to understand or to dig to understand why it is important that we allow ourselves to admit our failures and mistakes. Now, we have discovered that once we allow ourselves to admit to our own failures and mistakes, we give ourselves enough chance to learn and to correct our failures and mistakes, and we become good counselors and good teachers in that field. So anyone who denies their mistakes and their failures, they can only take people into that level of their failure, and they can never take people beyond that. Neither can they take their life beyond their mistakes and their failures. So we have concluded by saying that once we allow ourselves to agree or to admit to our own mistakes and failures, we create enough room to correct our failures and our mistakes, and we become better readers and able readers who must be relied upon. Now, from there, we have come to this issue that when we refuse to undergo mentorship, many things things go wrong within us. And when we come to the time where reality catches up with us, we find that we are looking for many excuses and reasons as to why things doesn't work for us, and such cannot hold water. No reason, no good excuse can ever help you maneuver in life. Listen to this: when you have failed, you must admit that you have failed and you need to be helped, such that you don't get frustrated along the way or in the near future. And so I've given up some leads on how to go about such that we don't become vulnerable to to those weak behaviors, to such activities like drug addictions and receipt brew. We don't get to that kind of an extreme. So I've given us some read on how to go about that. Now, after taking us through what we call individual leadership, the father would prepare their sons for marriage and the leadership therein, and that is what we concluded with in our past lesson. Now, I've said I'll not go back from the beginning where we started, but I only just mention a little bit of what transpired as we were learning how best to conduct our marriages and how best to over leadership in our marriages. Now, the leading of the wife, I said in the beginning, it was the duty of the father to introduce their sons into matters marriage and the importance therein. Sometimes we assume so much, and sometimes we take things for granted. We should never appear in our lives anymore. Never assume anything in life. Life is so little. There is no gap in life. Life is so little, and it demands a process. It demands that we follow to the letter. It demands that we follow a process. And I remember I've always said again and again that it's painful to follow into a process. Processes sometimes are tiring. Processes sometimes are time consuming. Processes sometimes are painful. But if you're not ready for such, we cannot qualify to become good leaders in whatever fields and in whatever areas that we find ourselves in. Now, let's listen to this. Now, it is important to understand that if we don't introduce our sons into matters marriage, they'll make some guesses out of such, and they'll go experimenting with the wrong thing. So it was the duty of the father to trigger in the mind of their sons and also in the hearts of their sons the importance of marriage, and they would walk them that journey and prepare them for the future that is ahead of them. So don't just assume that because you have a son in the house, they know it all. No, every son who is growing under your care need to be triggered into such. And even the sons that are listening to me, my sons, my spiritual sons, my biological sons, wherever you are, listen to this. It is important that you realize that you need to understand the life of marriage. Marriage is not just getting a girl into your house and go telling your age mate that I have brought a girl in my house, that is my wife. You are mistaken. You are lost in your own thinking. You need to understand before you get there, the father must introduce you to the process of marriage and the leadership therein. Now, I don't want to go into details because this you can get the clips in the YouTube and you can listen at your own time. Now, I said as I was about to conclude that every man that you see around hate being questioned. But I said we must correct such mistakes because that is our own belief and understanding. It is not with the women. So we need to clarify and to put issues in their right perspectives. Now, listen to this. Every man that is desiring to marry, you must be prepared of your father to know that women are very inquisitive. They ask questions out of nothing, but it is you to make those questions sensible, or those questions you must prepare yourself to handle whatever question they ask. If they ask a question that is without that is without some sense, put sense in that question. Answer them in the right way. Don't harass them. Don't put them down. Don't shut them off. Don't put them off. Please try to understand where they are coming from and how to handle them. I know those men who are watching me, they are already laughing because every man around had to be asked where they spend the night, what I mean, where they took their meal, who called them, why did they call them? Now, such question men will hate with a passion. But listen to this: if you are ready to marry somebody's daughter, be ready for such questions. Some are very awkward, but it is you who is the leader in that family, and it is you who knows how best to lead that family. So you don't need to run away from the question. You need to handle the question and offer solutions. Now, the reader is meant to offer solution, not to run away from the questions. Now, from there, I said another stage that the father would take their son is the stage of understanding the changes that comes with this young girl who is married. I said when they get pregnant, these are some of the things that young men ought to be told of their fathers, that girl will develop some mood swings. She will develop some attitudes, and other times she will develop some annoyances. She will annoy you whether you like it or not, because there are changes that are coming her way, because now she is not all alone, she is already pregnant. Now, after giving birth, what does the father ought to tell? I mean, what does it what information does the father need to give to their sons? That's where we are. What information do father need to give to their sons? These are some of the information that he need to pass down to their sons, that when a girl gives birth, number one, their figure will change. And I remember I've said it again and again, that every man that you see around, they have a reason as to why they married already. Some like their hair, some like their figure 8, others like other features in their body. And so when the girl gives birth, such figures sometimes may change. The way she used to carry herself, to conduct herself, maybe such will change. And it does not augur well with men, because they were attracted maybe to that figure, and now she's disfigured. You know. Now, I don't want us to go into length over that, but I want to tell every man, when a woman gives birth, their figure will change, their hobbies will change, their mode of clothing will change, and many things will change. And so a father would prepare their sons ahead of time to help them move from the point of infatuation to real love, because love is not at first sight. Love is a process. Love is built. Love is also a process that you must build. And I remember I borrowed from the book of Ephesians chapter number 5 from verses 22, where the Bible commands that you men love your wife just as Christ loved the church and gave out his life because of the church. Now listen to this: loving somebody is not easy. A father would prepare their sons why they should love their wives, and their wives why they should submit. Now, a father would tell their sons, my son, get to understand this, why God in his own wisdom brought about this trouble to men. It is because the one who loves is the one who takes care. The one who loves is the one who protects. The one who loves is the one who provides. The one who loves is the one who give it all. Listen to that. A father would prepare their sons to understand all that. But today we have a funny generation who are going out and expecting that it is the ladies who come loving them. It is the ladies who come proposing to them. No, listen to this young man who is following me. It should not happen. It will never happen. You need to sit under the instruction of your father and understand that it is the duty of the father to train you why it is important that you love your wife or the wife to be. Yes, I come again. The father would tell their son, God in his wisdom, understand that if you are loved, you depend on that woman. You'll expect so much from that woman. But if it is you who will love that woman, woman, you will take care of her, you'll provide for her, you'll protect her, you'll nurture her, you'll be there for her, you give it all to her. That is how important it is to learn why we should love a woman, or why we should love the wife to be. Now, when the son goes into the marriage with such information, that son will qualify to become a good father, a good leader, and a good protector in that family. Now, it does not end there. Now, a father would mention to his son, my son, something here you need to understand, which is very key or very fundamental in your marriage. Now, you must understand that when a woman gives birth, their attention is drawn to the newborn, and the love they had for you is drawn to the newborn. So don't argue with them, and don't fight them, and don't complain. You must understand the process of every good marriage. Every good marriage undergoes some 3 stages, the father would tell their son. And what is the first stage? It is falling in love. You fall in love with your wife. Number 2, falling out of love. Why falling out of love? Because when she gives birth, she'll give all her attention to the newborn. She'll be there for the newborn. Everything about her love will go to the newborn. And such moments, you walk lonely, you feel lonely, you feel rejected. But here days, it is not high time. A daddy will suggest to his son, it is not high time to quit your wife. It is high time to offer leadership, because such things must come whether you like it or not. And the father would tell him the last stage of every good marriage is falling back in love. So you must expect, you have to live with some expectation that after we have nurtured these young ones, after we have grown them up, after we have given them all that they need, and now they are finding their way out, will fall back in love. So to those who understand the 3 stages of marriage, they don't fight over small issues, but they encourage one another over such. And the father would conclude by telling his son, my son, listen to this. Now, every good marriage that you see around doesn't happen because some perfect couples have come together, but every great marriage that you see around is built of an imperfect couple that learns to appreciate their differences. Every great marriage that you see around, it's not built of a perfect couple, but it is built of imperfect couples who learn to appreciate their differences, who learn to appreciate their mistakes, who learn to forgive one another. When you learn it that way, and when you are out with such information, you will qualify for a great marriage. And the father would not miss to tell their son, every good marriage that you see around, there must be good communication. And a father would suggest to his son, my son, listen to this and listen carefully, that every good marriage, every good marriage that you see around is as a result of good communication. And so a father would tell their son, good communication and good marriage go hand in hand. So you cannot do without one. So good communication, good communication and good marriage go hand in hand. And the father would continue to tell their son, now that good communication is the lifeblood of that marriage. So where the blood is dried up, or where the blood is no longer there, now the result is death. Now if you cut yourself and you breed to death, the outcome of such breeding will result into permanent death. Now you'll die whether you like it or not. Now when communication dies in every marriage, now that marriage has started the process of death, and some days it will be dead. Now listen to this. A father would tell their sons, Please listen to this. Communication has levels, and so when you have grown up, and when you have married, and when you have grown to become a mature husband, and your wife has grown to become a mature mother, listen to this. You need to up your game. You need to upgrade your skills of communication. So a son would be warned ahead of time. What you used to tell the young lady you see around is not what you tell them when they are 50 years, when they are headed to 60. Such communication is already outdated, and you need to apply some new skills to communicate with a 50-old lady, a 60 years old lady, yes, a 45 years lady. You don't need to talk to them like you talked to them while they were young. No, you need to develop, you need to grow your skills of communication, and this involves both parties. Every woman must know this, every man must know this. Now, why is it so important that we grow our communication? Now, a father would summarize it all by telling their son, as long as somebody is listening to you, they are telling you they have a praise in your life. Yes, so anytime you appreciate communication and you allow communication, that is, yes, she speak to me, I speak to her. As we allow such dialogue to carry on, we are telling one another, you have a praise in my life. Number two, you value them. Number three, you give them a sense of belonging. Yes. Number four, they feel secure, and you kill all manner of fears that crop about any time. Such fears now are well dealt with because you have the right communication amongst you. Now, today I want us to touch a little bit on how to come to the third level of leadership. Remember, in this level of leadership, we have 6 stages, which are namely: number 1, individual leadership, the leading of the wife, the leading of the children, social leadership, religious leadership, and resource management or resource leadership. Now, when it comes to the third level of leadership, a father would introduce his son to a new venture altogether, and he would tell his son, I know I have taught you on how to conduct yourself as a leader, and I have taught you on how to marry and to lead your wife and to lead her in the right way. Now, number 3, the father would tell his son, now I want to introduce you to the leading of the children, and he would bring this thing in a very open way, and he would tell their son, if you lead a child the way you lead yourself, you are mistaken. If you lead a child the way you lead their mother, you are mistaken. You must learn some new art of leadership on how to lead a newborn until you bring them to this level of puberty or the area of adolescent. So if you don't know how to go about this, you'll be a very good leader of your own, a good leader to your wife, but a very poor leader to your children. Now, to my amazement is that now a majority of men who are married, nobody introduced them to this level of leadership. It amazes me to know that millions of men were never introduced to this. Now, if there is something that is so difficult to handle, is parenting, and people should never assume on matters parenting. It is delicate, it's hard to handle, it is hard to complete the process, and so these things must linger in our minds, and they must be put into our minds. They must be instilled in our mind and also in our hearts by a good father. So a father would tell their son, it is high time that you run now to move from the mountain top to the valley. You come down to the valley and you cry with a kid from the valley until you take them to the top of the mountain. So to those of us who understand what it means to come from the valley to the top of the mountain, you understand that it is not an easy task. It is so demanding. Much will be expected of you, and sometimes you can fail in between, because climbing a mountain is hard work. It is a tough task. And so I'm comparing a racing or parenting with climbing of a mountain from a valley. And so a father would prepare their son to tell them, my son, there are things that I want you to understand about a child. Number one, when you see a child born, they are born innocent. They have nothing and they know nothing. Number two, when you see a child develop, they will eat anything. They have no choice, but when they learn to put things in their mouth, they can put anything into their mouth. They can put susu or poo in their mouths. And so I'm only mentioning because I'll bring it into details. Number three, the son would be told of their father, every child that you see around are vulnerable to sicknesses and diseases. And the father would not stop there. He would tell their sons that every child that you see around demands or requires tender care. A father would not stop there. He would tell his son, you must understand this kind of leadership, that every child that you see around can follow anybody. As much as you are the daddy, this child, if they are left alone, they can follow anybody. Now the father would not stop there. He would tell their son, every child that you see around, they require somebody to teach and somebody to learn from. So if you are absent, they will learn from other sources. If you are absent, they will copy other people. And so this list can go on and on. But a father would spare the son the struggle to understand many other things and concentrate on such that I've mentioned. And so when we start on the child leadership, the father would prepare their son to understand that kid is so innocent, they know nothing and they have nothing. It's like a new chapter and the father would tell their sons, now that you have been given of God a new chapter, you must be very careful. I'm an author of many books, so I know what it means to start a chapter. What you write on that chapter will never be erased. It will remain for generations like that. So a father would tell their sons, be very careful, be very mindful, and be very observant, such that you don't write some wicked thing on that chapter. The mind and the heart of that kid is a new chapter, and whatever you are going to put onto that new chapter, it will remain forever and ever. Now somebody would ask, what are you talking about here? I'm talking about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now when the child is born, they may not be able to listen with you, they may not be able to talk back to you, but whatever you speak is that information is stored in their subconscious mind, and some days it will service whether you like it or not. That's why the daddies were very careful to read their sons on how to lead their children, their newborn children. And the father would tell them, be very careful, whatever you speak will be recorded in that new chapter. Whatever behaviors you demonstrate before that kid will be stored in that new chapter. And these things a father would give their son code devotion. He would tell them, my son, if you want your son or your daughter to grow to become a little person or a little mother and a little father, you must prepare a good foundation for them. And listen to this. I've always borrowed again and again from the Muslim community. Now, I've said it again and again that in the Muslim community, fathers receive their newborns and speak into their lives what they want to see happen in the near future. Even to those that you see who are radicalized, now there is a voice speaking in them. It is the fathers who receive their daughters and their sons, and they speak in their lives in that point of birth. Listen to this. That is very important, because so many people assume many things. A child is not brought up. You don't just bring up a child when they are 5 years and 10 years. No. You start from the point of birth. Now, if you hold that newborn into your hands and you speak into their spirits and you speak into their mind, their subconscious mind will store that and they will live with it. So whatever you speak in them, that voice of a father will not die. That voice of a father will remain with them in their generation. And so a father would take time to elaborate on that and show their sons how important it is to know best what they are writing in that new chapter. But remember, I've just said a newborn baby knows nothing and have nothing. It is you to instill what you want in their souls, in their mind. And so number 2, a son would be told of their father. Children are so annoying. They'll cause you, they'll get you angry with time. Now, and I know a majority of you who are parents like myself, we know that when our young ones started to crawl after the weaning, after they were weaned, they would learn to crawl, and whatever they would find on the ground, they would put in their mouth. Others would even swallow some money. Others would put poo-poo in their mouth. They are so annoying. And the father would tell their sons, now it is your duty to teach that kid what ought to be eaten from that which ought not to be eaten. It is your duty to teach that son what she or he ought to drink from that which she or he ought not to drink. So you don't go beating the child because they have eaten a cockroach. No, it doesn't work that way. You train them. You teach them on how to avoid this and take this. Show them the dangers they are in when they eat a cockroach, when they eat poo-poo, when they drink susu. Just explain to them they may not be in a position to handle every information that you are pumping in them, but that information is not learning away. That information is getting stored somewhere, and some days you hear them say, daddy said it's bad to eat poo-poo, it's bad to eat cockroach. They will start teaching others. Such information is produced, or such information is exposed to such a child by their father and mother. So it is important that mothers pray their role and daddies pray their roles. Now listen to this. A son would be told of their father, my son, listen to this and listen carefully. Every child that you see around are vulnerable to sicknesses and diseases. They will be attacked whether you like it or not. And you know one thing, we have this young generation that we are bringing up. We have these young fathers and some old fathers who are also very funny. That when a child gets sick at night, it is the duty of the mother to struggle to take the child to the hospital. And when they are asked to provide for such medication, they say, the KRS, it is you who never took good care of the child. Listen to this, my dear brother, wherever you are as a father, listen to this. It is your duty to take care when that child falls sick. Wake up from your slumber. Wake up and struggle with that child. Go to the hospital with that child. Provide for whatever is needed for that child when they are sick. Don't run away. I've seen it and I've heard heard it from various sources where fathers run away when their kids are sick, where fathers don't care when their sons and daughters are sick. From today, get some wisdom. Now we teach wisdom here. From today, be committed to raising up of your son and your daughter. When they fall sick, you need to understand it is obvious they are vulnerable to sicknesses and diseases, and a father would pump such information in the heart and the mind of their sons who are about to become young fathers. And it is also important that my daughters, listen to me. Those who are aspiring to marry, please listen from this information. Listen and listen carefully. You need to understand the process of growing up a child. You need to understand the process of parenting. It's very hard. Parenting is not easy. You cannot assume. You cannot overlook issues and matters parenting. They are so little and they are so demanding. Now listen to this. A father would not stop there. He would prepare his son to understand that this kid that you see around, they require tender care. Yes, that kid requires tender care. And I know to those of my age, we are laughing silently somewhere, because we were brought up by very hostile fathers. A father would kick you to death. So they knew nothing about this. That's why I'm saying we have like five generations of unmentored fathers. We were kicked like basketball or whatever ball that you know about. We were kicked hard, and they were so ruthless, and sometimes they would tell you, "I'll kill you and you get forgotten." So these are some of the things that we are exposed to. But thank God, because we are not here to judge or to condemn anybody. If our fathers were never exposed to such information, what do you expect of them? You should never carry with yourself that bitterness again. You should not carry with yourself that anger again. If they were not exposed to such information, even myself, were it not for God revealing to me all this, what do you think? What do you think of me? I would also fall into the same category. So we are trying to rectify the mistakes that we have suffered for years, for generations, and we must buy this information. We must appreciate this information. We must hold it tight, and we must not allow this information to fly away. That's where we are. Now listen to this and listen carefully. A father would tell their sons and their sons and also their daughters, that a child requires tender care. Very important, tender care. Yes, you need to understand, for you to have a conducive environment on how to raise a son or a daughter, you need to practice tender care. You need to handle them with care. You need to train them with care, and you need to work with them with care. So it is important. Now, it is important that we understand such bits, because if we lose it there, we lose it all over. And so some of us were so scared to death because we were exposed to hostility instead of tenderness. Some of us could not even handle themselves before people because we were so scared. We were threatened. We were called names, and big names and small names and ugly names. Now, so we developed some phobia in us that we cannot handle ourselves. We don't have the courage. We don't have what it takes to carry ourselves with boldness and with some courage. Now, such things ought to be addressed early enough, that when you practice tenderness with a child, they learn courage. They learn to become bold enough. When you give them tender care, you are preparing them to becoming a very stable people emotionally. You are preparing them to becoming a stable people mentally. You are preparing them to becoming a stable people in all areas that pertains to their individual lives. So that is why it was important for the father to introduce their sons to such knowledge, such that they don't mess up with the foundation of their sons and daughters. But thank God, because some of us survived. We survived the wrath, and today we can encourage many. Some of us survived the cruelty that was there, and through God's grace and mercies, we are able now to encourage others. So we better learn from this. We better understand the process and don't take it for granted. Never assume anything in life. Life has no shortcut, and if you want to apply shortcuts, you'll end up having some very long cuts. So a father would not stop there. A father would tell their sons, to those that are aspiring to marry, my son, listen to me and listen carefully. A child that you bring forth in this world, if you don't take good care of them, they can follow anybody. And this one, as I just want to mention this because I'm also a preacher. I'm also a counselor. I do many things. Now listen to this. It is also important for new believers to understand that if you don't allow yourself to be mentored of your spiritual father or your spiritual mother, you'll be following anybody that you'll be seeing around. When they are demanding this, you'll be there. Now listen to this. A child can follow anybody, whether a spiritual child or a biological child. That such may follow anybody. And today we have a very complicated society because we have people who are never nurtured to know how to follow, and that's why we cannot make great sons and get great leaders, because we never learned the process of following. Now anybody want to become their own unique thing, but listen to this. For you to become great, you have to learn to follow. For you to become somebody of substance, you must learn to follow. But when you rebel from such, I'm telling you, you never make it. You never make anything out of life. So for you to become great, you have to learn to follow. Yes, and you have to allow yourself enough time to follow, because following is not a 2 days work. It takes years. It takes a prolonged period of time. And following is not without challenges. Challenges will come, and sometimes there are suggestions that will come into your mind that you need to do away with this parent, or you need to do away with your father, you need to do away with your mother. They have nothing to offer. Listen to this. That is the suggestion of the devil, and you should quit it like yesterday, because if you don't know how to follow, you can never make anything out of life, and you can never grow to become great. You can never grow to be a man or a woman of influence. So it starts by learning how to follow, and that's why I've just said we are missing to have great spiritual sons and great spiritual daughters, because they are a Mr. Know-it-all. They get saved today, they want to become pastors tomorrow. They get saved today, they want to be the prophets of the day tomorrow. They get saved today, they want to be the apostles of tomorrow. They get saved today, they want to become the teachers of tomorrow. And they have only led some retreaters. Let me tell you, to become a teacher is not about leading some retreaters. Becoming a teacher is a walk that you walk. We don't just become teachers because we are good narrators. We know how to narrate. No. Or we are good orators. No. It does not happen like that. Because you'll be measured by what you say. You'll be measured by what you tell people. Listen to this. If you have to become a great teacher, you must learn to walk the talk. The teaching that you teach others must have some influence on you, and complete influence, not some influence. Now listen to this. So to those of you who are following me, and your spiritual sons and daughters to certain authorities, please, if you want to become like that authority, learn to follow. If you want to become a good prophet, learn to follow your prophet. If you want to become a great apostle, learn to follow that apostle that you are under. Now this is very important. If you want to become a great father, learn to follow a father who knows how best to conduct himself as a leader in the family. A father who is sober in their mind and sober in their doings. Now, it is important we understand that. Now, listen to this. This is just but to mention. Listen to this. Fathers, to those of you who walk with your sons and daughters into clubs and you start to take beer in their presence, that is what you have written in their mind and in their heart. Some days they will copy you. To those who smoke, cigarette, that is what you are passing down to your generation. Some days there will be great. There will be smokers who outdo you in smoking. If you allow yourself to be under influence of drugs and whatever, let me tell you, some days such will manifest in the sons and daughters that you are raising up. If you are very cruel, if you are hostile, let me tell you, that is in the message you are passing down your generation, and they will be very cruel and very hostile with their mother, with the wives to be, and with their families. So we must be very careful, because as they follow, they learn from us. As they follow, they learn from us. So if you grow into a very hostile environment, let me tell you, you have no choice but to become hostile. Now, let me just give us an example, and a living example. If you are raised up in Kibera, that Kibera is one of the slums in my capital city, Nairobi. Now, if you are raised in Kibera, whether you like it or not, you run to throw stones, and you have no option, you have no choice, because that is the kind of an environment where you are grown. So whatever environment from where you are grown has some influence, either positive influence or negative influence. So a father would prepare their sons to understand all this. The children need somebody to teach and somebody to train. They must require somebody who will teach them and somebody who will train as they follow. So that is very important. And because I don't want to give you too much until you cannot handle, please allow me to stop out parenting here, and I'll give you some exposure about this that will scare you. So get tuned and make Matalo your TV, make this channel your channel, and allow me to have this information. Remember, I do it for free. Please don't sell this information to nobody. You'll be going against the rule that are set. So I give it for free. Let's spread it for free, and don't you do anything beyond that. And God will bless you. Remember, we are out to heal a very sick world, a very corrupt world, and I'll show you in the times to come, the root of corruption. Where does the root of corruption start? And why do we have corrupt leaders? I'll teach you such things, and you'll get to understand many things, because corruption is not something that you can handle in the public. Corruption goes back, all the way back from the source. And so I'll show you why people are corrupt and why people appreciate corruption. These things are based on parenting. And so as I come back, I'll teach you many things, and I'll show you many hidden things that we ought to have known a long time ago. God bless you as we bring to us another number from the other side of the studio.
Ancestor on the beats.
Wendo wakoha oiwe kwe mwathani Ngai mwega wopire thĩ na igũrũ na ũkĩnyũmba ndũrenie ndĩroreire wega ona ũtugi waku amũkĩra ngatho ici kuma ngoro-inĩ nĩ magegania itari nawe mwathi nie ndingioneka maundu maingi ndanagerera na ngaigua ngoro itari na hinya